Hey, welcome back to BuiltFixed. On this episode of Your Questions Answered, let's check out the Felder AF-22. It's great to have you back. So let's begin here today by just doing a quick little tour around the Felder AF-22 so you can get an idea of how it looks mounted to the wall. Alright, let's jump right on into it. Like most Felder products, there are many ways their products can be configured. This Felder AF-22 has the 200mm input and also has the optional pleated filter on top versus the felt bag. So those are two big differences. I also have an optional 4 kilowatt motor installed. Let's go over the basic dimensions of this machine so you can get a good feeling for just how large this machine is and how much space it takes up. The machine measures 52 by 1.3 meters. So 520 millimeters by 1,300 millimeters, and has a depth of 150 millimeters. Plus, once you add the motor and your power plug here, that adds an additional 360, 370 millimeters more. Speaking about options for this dust extractor, chip extractor, you can see mine's mounted to the wall here. That's an option you can have from Felder. These wall brackets here are my own design. When I bought this Felder AF-22, it came with its own stand, but my ceiling height here is not sufficient to support the stand and have a pleated filter on top. So rather than wait for Felder brackets to show up in the mail, I had some scrap angle iron and simply welded together a stand that mounts to the wall. Here, come check it out. Now hopefully this will show up on video. I am using a very old camera, but it's nothing more than a piece of angle iron with some square down tubes here. The AF-22 has a deflector here, so you can kind of, to some degree, choose if one bag is getting a little bit too full too fast, you can redirect your airflow to the other bag, and it works okay. As I said before, this machine has the pleated Patron filter up on top. And what makes this so fantastic, I'm going to put you back here on the tripod here. One moment. Alright, what makes this style filter so fantastic are these two handles here, this one and this one. When spun around, there are these small little brushes down inside this filter, and they just kind of smack the pleats inside, causing all the dust to drop down into your bag. And that way you eliminate the need to take off a felt filter and walk outside and smack that and suck up tons of dust. This is a very clean, good way to declog your filter. So I can give a quick demo here now. I'll move the camera down to the bag level so you can see the dust that will drop down from the filter. Okay, so here are my filter bags. They're nothing more than a heavy-duty trash bag that I've bought from a local store. Of course, you can always buy Felder's products. They have their own made bags. But here we go. I'm going to spin the handles up top, and we can watch and see how much falls out of the filter. It's very effective, and it's an easy way to declog your filter. So I highly recommend getting the Patron depleted dust filter on top. Okay, going back to ways to mount your dust collector. Here is 1/2 of the Felder stand unit. It's a very heavy duty, appears to be perhaps aluminum, and has some adjustable feet down the bottom which help to level the machine out. Let's just take a quick look here and see just how thick this metal is. With my calipers here, I get a measurement of 2 millimeters. So it's not lightweight, it's very robust and well thought out and strong. The only problem I had, as I said, is that this height here is already too high for me. The stand causes the machine if you don't use the feet on this stand, you're at 895, so 89.5 centimeters in height. And the way this one here mounts is with these holes for the bolts to pass through. You can see on the machine over here, there's a bolt on each corner, and that's where this is located. So the distance from the bottom, not counting the adjustable foot, just on the stand itself, to the center of the bolt hole is 88 centimeters. And you can see your bolt hole here location is just about at the bottom of this case here. So that gives you probably, I hope, a good idea of the height that will take place when using the stand. Now in my configuration here, I have the machine set to a height to the top here of 89 centimeters, and that works out well for me for a couple reasons. And this is why I really would advocate, if you have your dust chip extractor by the wall, go ahead and mount it to the wall. And this is the reason why I think that's a great idea. For one, when you're vacuuming up at the end of the day, it's much simpler to vacuum and not bump into feet. The second reason why I would say go ahead and wall mount is it gives you the opportunity, if you have something like a spare vacuum or other tool you need to temporarily get out of the way. Of course, you can't have this under the machine while it's running, but you can have it here when the machine's turned off and slip it inside and get it out of the way. And if you're in a tight spot, this is a great option, I think, to save space. Well, here's the moment of truth. Let's turn the machine on and see how it sounds. Now, this is not a wimpy machine. It really puts out a lot of suction potential here. They have it rated at 3,100 cubic meters per hour at 2,500 pascals of suction vacuum. And all I can say is that when I took their numbers and then ran them for the size piping that I should have and did some calculations, I found that my system worked exceptionally well. My system here has a 200 millimeter inlet, and then from there comes across and maintains 200 for as long as I could before it's reduced down to a 160 millimeter blast gate, and from there it splits off to a 125, and that 125 then just runs right down, the hard pipe runs down to some flex tubing for the K3 table saw. Up overhead you have your 50 millimeter size tube for the overhead dust extraction. Now I really have a long run here in my workshop, given that I have tools in a hallway and I get pretty far away. The run of pipe is probably at least 30 feet, if not more. I'll get a measurement later and find out the exact number. But I'm running 125 millimeter now the rest of the way, all the way down through here for my bandsaw and also for the A3 jointer planer. Alright, here's a quick representation of the amount of suction that I'm getting from the top of my jointer here. I will turn on the dust extractor, come back, and then show with a piece of paper just how much suction is occurring here at the top. Alright, the last thing here is let's take a look at how high this filter is on the machine, so you can just get a feel for that size. I don't believe it's spec'd out on the website, so if you have a space issue like myself, then you can get an idea, will it fit. This cartridge is about just under 1.2 meters, and then on top you have another maybe 25 or so, 2.5 centimeters of additional height for the handle to clear. So I hope that helps give you an idea. It's a very large filter, and it's actually quite heavy. Everything about this machine is pretty heavy when it comes down to it. The basic machine itself is about 70 kilos roughly, and then when you add a filter on there, or if you add legs to the machine, the weight just continues to go up, where being at or above 100 kilos is probably very realistic. In fact, when I set this machine up myself, I had a friend come by and help carry it down the stairs. At that time I did not have my crane set up, so I needed help to get it down here. It is beefy. The motor also makes it a bit difficult to assemble by yourself. You have to be very careful because the motor does stick down below the machine. So really it's a two-person job. I was foolish and alone when I did the assembly and managed by myself without causing problems, but I would recommend get a buddy, a friend over to lend a hand for the 5 or 10 minutes it takes. You don't want to drop this machine on its motor. Speaking of the motor, as I said before, the data plate on that motor indicates 4 kilowatt. I'm running 3-phase on this motor here, and I mean, I don't have much to compare it to except my previous dust extractor was one of those cheap, maybe 1 or 1.5 horsepower machines that had the felt bag on top, and this works just light years better. Well, to summarize, I mean, you have many options out there in the marketplace today for dust, chip extractors. Felder, of course, is just one option out there. I'm really happy about mine, and I'm very happy about the fact that it's mounted to the wall, and that gives me more space. This machine seems, for my setup here, running with a K3 table saw, the A3, and the bandsaw to have ample amount of suction. My longest run is 30 feet, and there's still no problem with the amount of suction. On that long run, I'll say that it's a 125 millimeter diameter pipe. That's about 5 inches, and I've changed my A3 instead of having an inlet port of what was it, about 100 millimeters with that plastic cone. I took that off and bumped it up to 120 millimeters, and that has fantastic suction now. I can remember before with my old dust extractor, the A3 quite often would have chips all over the floor and wasn't really pulling all that material away fast enough. But now there's no trouble at all. In fact, the suction with this is so good that I quite often leave the blast gate for my table saw open 100% of the time. And if I'm using my A3, then I go down, open that blast gate, run the machine, shut the blast gate, and then I don't have to worry about did I forget to open a blast gate when the dust extraction turns on. I'm not really sure about how much vacuum I can pull in this tubing before it would collapse. So as a matter of safety, for the equipment safety, I always keep at least one blast gate open all the time. My K3 table saw, it does a very, very good job. Not as good of a job as the A3. If I'm using overhead dust collection like here now with the EuroGuard, there's very little to none. There's very little to no dust on the table after making a cut. But as you would expect, if you're making a cut with a dado, you're going to end up with debris all over the place. Well, speaking about piping, I chose to go to a flexible piece of pipe for the final run from my hard piping down to the machine. And the reason was just to isolate any vibration in the system and to keep it from transferring up to the fasteners that hold my piping or with the machine here. So think about that when you do your install. Here's a piece of flexible pipe, and it's a good pipe, but it's a bit too rigid for most applications in my shop. You can see it's very stiff. I believe they call this the medium strength. The positive is it's more smooth inside than most flex pipe, but I think you can still expect you're probably going to have almost double the static pressure from flex pipe versus a smooth walled pipe of the same diameter and the same length. You can see how smooth this hard pipe here is, and it makes a huge difference in the system. And all I can say about Felder and their published numbers, I haven't taken a gauge to my system yet and checked it, but what I can say is that based upon their numbers they provided on the website of 3,100 cubic meters per hour of volume, and also the 2,500 pascals of suction, that it holds true for their machines here. My shop now stays much cleaner than it was before, and I have much less mess to clean up after I make a cut. So I hope this helped out for your thoughts and considerations with the Felder. You can see it's a big machine, but it produces, in my opinion, big results too. And wall mounting a machine like this can really help with your space in the workshop. So stay safe, have fun on your own project, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.